Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're enjoying your day so far, and as the GA discussion continues to rage on, I thought it was pretty interesting what Octane had to say in a couple of videos on the matter, right? Talking about exactly how this is determined, how the GAs are decided by most of the teams, but also why he thinks that a few of these GAs, and even the AK47 GA, is just these pros taking it one step too far, right? And the fact that, well, not all the pros have their decisions to be made, right? Because there's, of course, the representative that comes out from each team, and, well, of course, the pros deciding things. Is there a better way to do it? But as a result of that, we're getting these GAs which Octane thinks has certainly gone one step significantly too far, and the meta with the AK47 in play, he reckons was still pretty reasonable, and now with it out of the game, with the XM4 and the Krig in the game, is there something next on the horizon? It's certainly a question that might be asked. Intrigued to get your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new. As always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Firstly, this from Clayster & Co. So Josh says, for the first time, I've completely lost my head with sensitivity and aim types. So a lot of you guys might be using the dynamic aim assist types right now, as I am, but as Macat says, with a sub it's elite. For pick up an AR, your hands fall off. ARs with dynamic is super hard, so maybe standard is the way to go. If you're an assault rifle player, maybe I'll have to try that out one day or another. But a few days ago on the 3rd of Jan, just me, myself, on my AK says Arcitys, and well, in a very quick reply to this, I think it was a silly that came out and said, I have bad news for you, and as Arcitys says in reply, and that was my last day of the AK, I will see you soon. But a significant number of players don't necessarily agree with this decision, right? Because I'm pretty sure the way it works, every team has a representative, they get into a call, and well, someone proposes a GA, and there's no way that, well, there's no like limit on the amount of GAs you can propose, and as Doug Lee talked about that we looked quite recently, that he reckons that if you're going to propose a GA and go through with it, it just has to be gone forever, and there's no coming back, and teams can only like, only one new GA can be proposed per week or something like this, but pretty much someone proposes a GA, then they talk about it, and if, I think if there's like a 2/3 majority, 8 out of the 12 teams, then it's gone unlucky, lads, and if you try and use it, you're getting blacklisted from the scrims, as we've seen, well, threatened at least a few times in the past, and well, teams then backing down from their, well, their threats to break GA, as we saw back in, well, the middle of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, when the AUG was then into the meta, and FaZe were using it for a time, and then the teams decided to get rid of it, effectively because it benefited them getting rid of a weapon which they weren't using and they weren't practicing with. And that's, well, one of the key things here. Octane also talks about in this video the fact that during Call of Duty Modern Warfare as well, the 10mm damage round on the MP5, that should have gone way earlier, but some teams, I imagine namely FaZe or Dallas for example, were obviously doing very well with their SMGs because they had SMG players, therefore they didn't want to get rid of the 10mm on the MP5 because that would hurt their team more than it would hurt other teams, which, well, is one of the big issues really about this entire situation, the fact that the players are just going to do what's beneficial, what's most beneficial for their team, and well, if you're a great team with the Krig, with the XM4 for example, you might be pretty happy to get rid of the AK47 because that's going to hurt other teams more than it's going to hurt you, and that's probably one of the big things that does happen right here. But a number of players didn't exactly agree with this GA, right? When it did get GA'd, Simp says, look, doesn't matter what I think, I am one man, and Octane is in a similar boat, I imagine, saying, look, I didn't want the AK47 gone, and obviously I'm an assault rifle, one of the best over these last several years, but well, other people did, and therefore because there's a majority, there is just nothing I can do about it on this instance, and there's nobody else involved, and there's no overarching body that can potentially deal with this type of stuff and will actually make a decision which is beneficial and more makes sense with all things considered.
If you guys see something GA'd, it's because either every team agreed to it or people like 1 or 2 teams didn't agree to it, but they still want to scrim, so they kind of had to. That's been a position before as well. Now, a lot of you guys have the idea that GAs are getting out of hand, which I'm starting to agree with. I'm not going to lie to you guys. This is just my personal opinion, but there's been some GAs that I think are a little dumb. I also think that there is like some is very, very trigger happy when it comes to GAing things. Like there's been some this GA that is just questionable in my opinion, and I know a lot of you guys have started to get pretty upset with it. I know in my YouTube comments and from what I've read on social media for the most part, a lot of you guys are just like, dude, play the game, which I'm starting to agree with. I think, again, GAs are necessary, and I think that there are a good amount of GAs in this game that make perfect amount of sense, i.e. The smokes and respawn. If there was no GA on smokes and respawn, then there would be 10 of them. I don't think the AK47 should have been GA'd. I really don't. I think that there were maps that the Krig was good, and I think that there were maps that the AK was good. I think you could get away with both, and while I believe that, you know, the AK is very, very good, the 74U is literally able to kill across the map in the same amount of time. Like the 74U is nuts how good that gun is. So I think that, like, even if, since we GA'd all of these attachments on the 74U, right? Like we GA'd damage barrels, we GA'd this, we GA'd this, we GA'd this. Today I had to get onto scrim and I hadn't used a class for a little while, an M4 class. And it was like, I don't remember what it was some it was a barrel or something, and I was just using it, and then my team was like, yeah, you're not allowed to use that barrel anymore. I'm like, bro, what? There's no damage on it. It's like there's just some shit in this game that is just stupid. But
so Octane talks about a number of things that annoy him about, well, some of the GAs that have come out of the game right now. I think a lot of the barrels were kind of getting frustrating for him, especially given the fact that, well, he was hopping into scrims, he was using some barrel on his XM4 that wasn't banned a few days ago, talking about how, like, some of the bullet velocity barrels, even like something like the Liberator, for example, is, well, even that's getting banned out of the game, even though, like, why is this getting banned out of the game? It's like what Simp said a few days ago, the fact is that he heard, or someone told him, and then he kind of thought that maybe this barrel increased the headshot damage, and therefore it was getting GA'd, and the pros don't even have to like test this stuff, don't even get like watch exclusive Aces videos or anything. They just kind of crack on and like, okay, this is broken, therefore it's got to go, and all the barrels are gone. Nobody knows what's going on. It's absolute chaos, right? Because Octane's coming back to scrims, he doesn't even know what barrels are still bad, what maybe has been allowed back into the game. Just absolute mess, right? And the AK-74U is a very strong weapon, and we tend to see this every single year, where there's an SMG which is just dominant, killing assault rifles at range with ease at times, but yet the AK-74U, perfectly reasonable. The AK-47, on the other hand, is apparently way too strong, right? And that is some of the question marks about, okay, we're banning all these barrels and stuff on the 74U, but still, the 74U is very, very good, doesn't really even have any competitors, whereas the AK-47 was still in the case on certain maps, Moscow, for example, maybe a checkmate, search and destroy in certain situations. The Krig is certainly still viable in certain situations, and maybe with the AK-47 gone, you do get a better meta, a more balanced meta, where you see more XM4s and more Krigs in play, and maybe they are more balanced with the 74U, but yeah, just all the things that are getting GA'd. I mean, we also saw the KSP get GA'd as well. I mean, the KSP might be very good, but it's certainly a niche weapon, right? It's not a weapon that was dominating the meta. It's not like people started using it in scrims, it took over the scrim meta, and then all of a sudden the pros realized, okay, I actually prefer the 74U, it's gotta go. I mean, it's one of those weapons which could definitely be viable, could definitely be competitive. It is very strong in theory, but yeah, it was never actually being used, right? So it's just GA'd for the sake of being GA'd, because the pros don't like weapons, you could argue, that don't just shoot straight and well, full auto, and they sound good, and they don't have too much recoil, these kind of things, which well, that tend to be the weapons that pros like to use, right? And any weapon that doesn't do that, it's time to go sunshine, right? So understandable frustrations, I think, with Octane, especially with some of the barrels, right? A lot of the things in the game do make sense. GAs have their place to a degree. There are things like smokes, which just, well, we don't want to see 8 smokes on the map every single hard point, because that would just be not good to play, not good to watch, especially with the way they get one ways, and the fact that you don't get aim assist, this type of stuff is just not good. But there are certainly some things which I think the GAs are probably going too far, and the fact that Octane is saying it, and well, getting very frustrated with the fact that he's coming back to scrims, and all of a sudden a new thing is GA'd and nobody really knows. Is like, have people actually agreed on this? It's not always so clear. And then at the same time, as you can see in some of these aBeZy clips right here, the 74U is absolutely crushing people when he hops on the AC right here and absolutely just beams Silly across the map with the 74U, and he does it again here on checkmate a couple of maps later in this scrim cell, I believe, versus the Los Angeles Guerrillas. But yeah, this weapon, of course, perfectly legitimate, perfectly fine, even though it is dominating the meta, right? And with the 74 out, or the 47 even, out of the game, is it going to be like a 3 SMG meta on some maps where you see quite a lot of 74Us and, well, not too many XM4s and Krigs, right? And in that case, maybe the 47 should have stayed in the game. I don't know, many questions to be asked here, but well, I think a lot of people were somewhat surprised that the 47 ban went through on the professional level, and even some of the top ARs in the game are significantly disagreeing with this decision. Just to finish off the video with a couple of interesting things, this came out from Neptune. I mean, a pretty nice clip I'll finish off for the video with for you guys, but well, also some discussion on exactly what his new team is going to be. So a team with Parasite for a time, with well, to not necessarily great success. I believe it was the squad with Parasite, Decimate, Blast and Neptune, but it was a pretty toxic team, and Blast, of course, has now gone to play Warzone full-time and actually not going to be continuing on the competitive Call of Duty side. Those are certainly some nice shots right there, but his new team seems to be Felony, Nagafen, Proto and Neptune going forward. So well, hopefully this is a good one and we get some good performance out of Neptune, because as you can see, he's a pretty nasty player, but well, if he gets a good team around him to maybe learn from and improve from, and Felony, Nagafen, Proto, all guys who have been around a number of years here, they may be able to help him learn and develop, and that'd be an exciting thing to see, I think, because well, these Halo kids are absolutely disgusting, and Neptune could be the next up, maybe at the start of next season or something, or maybe even later this season, he might get an opportunity on a team somewhere or another. And well, speaking of Decimate, I suppose, who did used to team with Neptune that we just looked at, this I thought was a ridiculous ridiculous scoreboard that came out from Decimate. It's never been this bad, as he says. Well, he's playing 8 right here. Decimate, Parasite, Slacked, Methods on one team, Fire, Vivid, Saints, and Glowfrosty on the other. 250 to 158. So not even a particularly, well, not a particularly close map by any means. Didn't really go the distance as it could have done. But Decimate dropped 70 kills, 70 and 28. This guy should make a YouTube channel and pop this gameplay up because, well, this I imagine was pretty ridiculous. It reminds me actually of, it was Slasher's 50, I think it was 55 kills that he got on London Docks hardpoint way back in World War II. I think it was against United, or I forget exactly who it was against, but well, he had 55 kills, and the map was like 250 to 130 or something ridiculous. Like, he would have had almost 60, 70 kills if it had have gone the distance, gone to like 250, 249. Slasher probably would have broken 70, and well, obviously Decimate does it with elimination, so it's not fully kills here, but certainly one of the best 8s performances that I've seen so far on this game, and we'll have to see how Decimate does in the Challenger side going on this season. But enjoy to hear your thoughts on this stuff in the comment section below. Do you believe the pros have gone too far? I'm sure a lot of you do. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. Really helps out the YouTube algorithm know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well, and I'm growing the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care, and I will see you next time.
Capturing A. Hostile forces are contesting Alpha. Alpha is secure.